Wagwan, everybody. Welcome to the Dis Affamie History podcast, where we'll be speaking about history and as well family history and how history relates in terms of Caribbean people for the present as well as in the past, and how in the past what that does and brings forth for what we are going through at present and what we can learn from our history, from our family, and take that moving forward. So I do hope you enjoy the podcast. And if you like it, please ensure to subscribe, like, and review. Thank you.
In this episode, Wendy Aris will be joined with guest Robin R. Foster, who is the founder of Genealogy, Just Ask, and an award-winning author. We will be discussing her book, My Best Genealogy Tips, Researching Your English Roots. So let's have a listen.
So today we have on the podcast a regular guest almost is Robin R. Foster, who has written the book Tracing Your British Roots. And she's been on here before talking about, again, books that she has written about researching your enslaved ancestry. So Robin, thank you so much for coming on. And if you can, again, just give a brief introduction about yourself so the listeners are aware.
Hello, my name is Robin Foster, and I'm really excited to talk about the books especially, but I am a genealogist. I have a passion for helping patrons, no matter where they're from, find their ancestors. We've had a lot of success through the years, and I'm just happy to be here today.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so we'll start, and then would you be able to share a little bit about your own journey in tracing your own English ancestry?
Sure. I'm excited because to have authored the book, My Best Genealogy Tips, Researching Your English Roots, because of my own challenges. I have an ancestor who was George Anderson Tucker. He was born in 1882. He died in 1932. Now, he was Black, but his father was white. His mother used to be a slave for the family. She was enslaved by them. This is hard, but he gave his family 200 acres of land. He never married. So I feel inclined to do his work. So I've been researching that line. I got to my 10th great grandfather was Thomas Tucker. He was born in 1614 and he died in 1652. Now he died in Norfolk, Virginia, but he was born in 1614 in England. I found a Port of London list of immigrants to Virginia in 1635. He would be the first one in that line from England coming to America. Now, after I did the book, I know that I need to look into passenger lists, immigration records, colonial records during that time period. Records from the Port of London might provide details about Thomas Tucker's departure. Once in Virginia, land grants, tax records, and wills might offer more information about his life there. So I'm in this just like everyone else that it has to research English roots.
No, definitely. And you mentioned off a couple of the ones that you definitely have to go to at first. And how has this process of researching your English roots impacted your understanding of your family history and heritage?
If I say my heritage covers not only the African American side. That's hard to come to terms with for some people, like members of my family. But I feel that all of those people need recognition.
And what would be, going back here a little bit, what would be some of the first steps someone should take when beginning to research their English ancestry?
Well, there's a few things that I could go over. Starting your journey in English ancestry can be both exciting and overwhelming. Yeah. And there are a few steps that you can take to get started. You want to start with what you know. That's like you have to gather the information that you get from your living relatives and family documents, whatever you have at home. This could include birth, marriage, death certificates, diaries, letters, photographs, and even family Bibles. You want to organize your information. Use a genealogy software program or an online family tree tool to organize the information you have gathered. This will help you see that you already know and identify what you need to find out. You want to identify your research goals. Are you interested in tracing one family line? Or do you want to find out where your ancestors lived in England? Or are you interested in learning about occupations? Have clear goals, and that will help guide your research. You have to search online databases, websites like ancestry.com, familysearch.org, Find My Past. They have extensive collections of English genealogical records. Start with census records, civil registration records, birth, marriages, and deaths. Now, you have to explore parish records. Before civil registration began in 1837, parish records are the most common source for tracing English ancestors. These records include baptisms, marriages, burials, and they can be found online. You want to look at probate records, wills. Wills and probate records can provide information about an ancestor's date of death, their occupation, their residence, and the names of their heirs. Now, there's genealogical societies that you can join. Local and national genealogical societies often offer resources, learning opportunities, and a chance to connect with other researchers. There's one that they can join, the Society of Genealogists, and the various county and family history societies in England are a good place to start. The last thing I would say, consider DNA testing. DNA testing can complement your documentary research and connect you to relatives you didn't know you had.
Yeah. And thank you so much for those steps, because it can, as you said, it can be very much so overwhelming, but very exciting at the same time. And what would you say are some of the common challenges that people face when tracing their English roots, and how can they overcome it?
One problem is the variations in name spellings. It's probably the most common discrepancy you'll find when searching documents. Names might have been badly transcribed and indexed by modern search engines, indexers. They're written down at the time of the document as the writer heard it, naturally changed over a period of years, or changed on purpose. To come to this, you don't always rely on the sound decks in search engines. These do not catch every possible variation of a name. Use your imagination. Saying the name out loud in a different accent or mumbled with if you have a cold, you still can't find the person. If you still can't find the person, the main ancestry research engine, try searching using other things you can think of. Another problem is too many results with the same name. This can be overwhelming and confusing. So to narrow down the results, use additional information you have about the person, such as the occupation, the place of residence, or names of family members. There's also conflicting information in documents. This happens more often than you think, and it's particularly annoying. If the age isn't right or it differs, don't get too hung up on that, because age is often something that's different. Limited access to records. Not all records are available online, and some are kept in local archives. They may require an in-person visit. Might need to hire a local researcher or make a trip to the location yourself. The other thing is understanding historical context. I'd say in the past 300 years, there have been a time of increasing migration within Britain. Understanding the historical context and help you make sense of your ancestors' movements and lifestyle. And then there's interpreting old handwriting.
Yes.
Old documents can be read, can be hard to read due to unfamiliar handwriting styles and abbreviations and faded ink. There are online tools and guides that can help you learn to read old handwriting.
Yeah, I mean, cursive writing is really great to look at. It's almost like artwork.
Yeah.
But it can be, you have to go over a number of times just to be able to decipher what exactly is being said.
Yeah, and see now, I grew up, I learned cursive writing. My children don't, my child and my grandchildren don't learn it. So this is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, definitely it will be, and especially in English, because they use some words slightly different than others.
Yes.
You know, like the C will sometimes show as an S and vice versa, or so it's just reading it over and trying to figure out what exactly is being said. So I know you mentioned about some online databases, but what would you say in terms of the roles of those online databases and archives play in genealogical research today?
They're all good.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I've told you, we have, with Genealogy Just Ask, we have groups. And so they could join our English group. It's called Genealogy English Just Ask. And they can get the answers that they need right from there. They've been, we have for, every country and state.
That's great. And as well as, how are the parish records? Because I know you mentioned about the parish records, the census data, and the other historical documents that aid in the genealogical research. How can someone use those?
Parish records, census data, and other documents are invaluable resources for genealogy research. Parish records are one of the most common resources for tracing English ancestry before 1837. When civil registration began, they include records of baptisms, marriages, burials. Baptism records are often include the child's name, parent's name, and the baptism date. Marriage records can provide the bride and the groom's baptism date. I'm sorry, marriage date. and sometimes their ages and fathers' names. Burial records typically include the list name of the deceased and the date of burial. Census data. The UK has taken a census every 10 years since 1801, except in 1941 during World War I. Sorry, it's World War II. Census records can help give you a snapshot of a particular time and place, and typically include information such as the names, dates, ages, places of birth, occupations, relationships to the head of household. There are probate records and wills. These can provide information about property and other assets, the names of heirs and other relatives, and even insights into family relationships and dynamics. There are military records that can provide information about an ancestor's military service, including enlistment dates, service history, and discharging dates. Land and tax records. These can provide information about property, ownership, and residence. And then I love newspaper archives. These can provide a wealth of information, including obituaries, local news sources, stories, announcements of births, marriages, and deaths.
No, those are great, especially the newspapers, because it does provide a lot of great information, and maybe even a picture as well that you may be able to get out of that as well. And would you say, are there any, lesser known resources or tools that you can recommend for discovering your English roots?
Yeah, there's lots of them. I include some of them in the book. Archive Grid, that is a website. It has a collection of more than 2 million archive items in collections held by thousands of libraries, museums, historical societies, and archives. It provides detailed finding aids that identify specific original historical documents. You might have heard of this one, David Rumsey map collection. This contains over 64,000 maps and other cartographic images, and focusing on rare 18th and 19th century. Okay, they have some from Europe in there, but there's some from around the world, but Europe is in there. The Digital Public Library. It's an ever-expanding website that draws resources of some of the nation's leading repositories. It allows you to explore more than 11 million digitized items from libraries, archives, museums across the country. You're gonna laugh at this one, eBay.
Oh.
While it might seem unusual, eBay can be a great place to find family trees, books, photo albums, old postcards, family Bibles, and a whole lot more.
Wow. Never would have thought of eBay for sure.
Yeah, I found some things on Amazon.
Oh.
My great grandfather, actually great grandfather, Beverly Vance, he was in a book, and I didn't know it. Another thing, if your listeners have listened or gone to Roots Tech, they'd want to look up. It's from this year, little known free sites for English research. I didn't have that in my book, but that's a good class.
Yeah. No, definitely, because sometimes there are some paywalls to some of these that people may not be able to access, right? So
Yeah.
That can be a challenge. So what, advice would you give to someone who hits kind of like a dead end in their research?
Um, you want to revisit your research. Sometimes you go back over the information you've already gathered,
Mhm.
and you can find out or have revealed to you overlooked details or suggest new avenues of research. You want to expand your research. If you're focusing on a specific individual, try researching their siblings, their cousins, or in-laws. These collateral lines can provide clues about your direct ancestors. Look for alternate spellings. Names can be spelled differently in different documents or may have been transcribed incorrectly. Try searching for alternate spellings or use wildcard characters in online databases. The number one thing I say, research by location. Understanding the history and geography of the places your ancestors lived can provide useful context and may suggest additional records to research. One thing you can use wherever you are in the world is a research wiki.
Yeah.
It's at Family Search, and you can look up according to where your ancestor lived. You want to reach out to others too. Connect with other researchers through genealogy forums, social media groups, or DNA match lists. They have information that can help you. You might have to consult a professional. If you're really stuck, you might consider hiring a professional genealogist. They have expertise and access to resources that can help break down your brick walls.
Mm-hmm. Definitely they can.
I've added this one in too, and that's take a break.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to step away from the problem, and that can give you a fresh perspective when you come back to it.
Mm-hmm. And for sure, to step away sometimes it can do much better to be able to come back with fresh eyes. So, and I know that you mentioned about DNA testing, but how can DNA testing complement the traditional genealogical research?
Well, one way it confirms your paper trail. DNA testing can help confirm relationships of ancestors suggested by traditional research. For example, if you had a historical document, it suggests that two individuals are siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, DNA testing of their descendants can provide additional evidence to support this. It helps you break through brick walls.
Mm-hmm.
Every genealogist encounters brick walls,
Yeah.
or dead ends in their research at some point. DNA testing can provide clues to help overcome these obstacles. For example, if you're unsure of an ancestor's parents, DNA matches with descendants of potential siblings can provide the necessary evidence. Discovering unknown relationships. DNA testing can reveal relationships where previously unknown or unconsidered. This can lead to entirely new avenues of research. Tracing ancestral origins. Certain types of DNA tests can provide estimates of your ethnic makeup. For those with English roots, this could provide information about which regions in England your ancestor likely came from. It connects you with living relatives. That's really good when you want to, find someone who's researching your ancestor and you take what they have gathered and you both exchange that.
Yeah. Definitely. And how would, I know you mentioned you at the very beginning when we were just going through, what to kind of do is But how does the English cultural and historical events influence the family history research?
Let's see. The creation of records, certain events in history have a big impact on present day family history research, as they created the records, the very records that we genealogists use time and again. These records allow us to travel back in time to discover our families and their stories. You can understand social change. Historical research on the family has revised some of the widely held myths about family life in the past, as well as generalizations about the impact of grand processes of social change on family and society. This understanding helps you to reconstruct the life patterns of ordinary people, to help actually to view them as ancestors, as subjects, as well as subjects in the process of change.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And, and would you say that are there any specific regions in England that have unique genealogical resources or challenges?
I use the research wiki.
Okay.
In the book, I included all the regions from England. As for challenges, it's important to note that genealogy research can vary greatly depending on the region in England. Some areas have extensive historical records, while others may have gaps due to various factors such as fire, war, or poor recorded practices in the past. Additionally, some records may be in regional archives and not digitized, requiring in-person visits.
And how has, for you, Robin, how has it been for you writing this book? Has it changed your perspective on family and heritage?
Uncovering the past seems or sometimes can reveal sensitive or difficult information. How this impacts relationships can vary greatly depending on the individual and families involved. In general, the journey of writing a genealogy book can be a deeply personal experience with the potential to significantly impact relationships within a family. I don't know if I give you an example. The other night, it was in the middle of the night and I was asleep. But it was 3:00 in the morning. A lady sent me a message. And I looked and she had emailed me 3 times.
Wow.
It was about 9:00 when I was looking at it. I saw something in one of the emails she sent. It said, Otis is my great aunt. That's my grandmother.
Wow.
Since yesterday, this today I got up, I haven't even had a chance to answer. She sent me 5 emails. But you know what? She found my website and she was able to understand her connection to me. Yeah. And I gave back to her. I told her, go to familysearch.org. Here's a link. It was to her grandfather. I didn't have anything on her grandfather, but she went in and she put pictures of him
Wow.
That is what I have to say. It's beautiful to
Yeah.
be able to do this work and to connect with someone else.
Yeah.
They have things, you have things. You put them together and put them on familysearch.org.
Yeah. No, that you're right. That's what it's about. It's that connection and not knowing the impact of what your connection is to that person, right? So here you are, couldn't sleep, have this email, and not knowing that further reading and delving into it, this person is actually connected to you. And
And
that
she was
is
closely
very close.
connected.
And that is a big thing. That is a big thing.
And could I say something
Yeah.
else? I know that there are a lot of people that have formerly enslaved ancestors. And they are related to the enslaver. Those people are coming together as one. I see it in my groups.
Yeah, it's quite impactful. It's very impactful. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Robin, do you have any other plans to write any more books on genealogy or any future projects that you would like to share with the listeners?
Yes. I'm in the process of writing a book that follows the journey of David Nelms. I had him in my first book.
Yes.
After the part, I found out a whole lot more about him. After his escape from Anson County, North Carolina in 1841, the narrative is enriched with historical documents and oral histories, which trace his steps through Ohio and on to Michigan. The book also delves into the story of Andrew, which is David's son, detailing his own escape to Michigan and Canada.
Right.
The manuscript is set to be copyrighted by September 15th.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great to hear. And I'll be looking forward to it. And, Robin, as we close, what would you have any final thoughts in regards to genealogy, whether it's for English ancestry or anything else?
Well, I have a lot more to write. And it comes from me dealing with my people.
Yeah.
They're from all races. One other thing is, one of the standout features of my best genealogy tips researching your English roots is the inclusion of QR codes. This allows the readers to seamlessly transition from reading the book to accessing a wealth of additional information about their ancestors. Furthermore, the book is encircled or enriched with a variety of resources for readers to explore and utilize in their genealogical journey.
No, thank you so much for that. And I'll put that in the show notes so people can be able to access that as long as with your other books as well. Because I know you've been on here before, and hopefully you might be able to come back on again if you have some time. But it's always been a pleasure to have you on. So thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you.
Hoped you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and write a review for the episode wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you.